Hello and welcome to another episode of Quickies with Angela and Caity.
I'm Angela Dawn of Authentic Heart Coaching. I'm a tantric sex coach and I help couples get closer.
And I'm Caity Wilkinson of Caity Coaches. I'm a sex, love, and relationship coach, and I can help you bring more pleasure to your partnership by bringing more pleasure to yourself. For today's episode, Angela recently met a fellow coach who was doing some transformational work in interpersonal communication. And we thought, wow, what a fantastic topic, because who hasn't put their foot in their mouth on a date or in a conversation with their partner or on an interview or some other time where what they said was totally out of line, but without meaning to be?
Right, Katie. I met Mariko at a gathering of sex, love, and relationship coaches a few weeks ago. And as soon as I had the opportunity to hear about what she does, I was a full yes to having her on the podcast.
Mariko Sakai, also known as Mistress Mariko, is a global citizen, businesswoman, coach, thought leader, TEDx speaker, community builder, and light worker. We are very excited to hear from you today. Welcome to Quickies, Mariko.
Thank you so much for having me today. It's an honor.
So to start things off, can you tell our listeners more about your background and what you do?
Of course, thank you. Thank you for asking. So I coach men and women reclaim their power by teaching them how to embody the opposite of the traditional gender-based stereotypes. And by doing so, free them from the conditioning and disempowering belief that they have. So that this particular, focus in my coaching comes from a couple different places. I would like to share that what was most impactful was actually my background and training in sales and marketing, not only just in person, talking to representing a big companies, but also like a one-on-one. And selling services and products one-on-one with people online and offline. And so in my experience of being a salesperson, talking to people there, and then learning what actual sales is and what makes the business happen, is actually the opposite of what I was thinking what that is. And then so that by itself was a fascinating learning experience and practicing experience. So when I got divorced and I started dating, which is about 5 years ago, 5 years ago, I quickly realized that, oh my God, that the skills that I know from sales and then business making is the same as in the relationship and then connecting with people. It's exactly the same thing. And then so I was like, wow, I have an advantage here. So that's one background. And another background that I find to be very unique is that I'm a martial artist. I started taking this, again, when I became single, I realized that oh my God, I don't feel safe. I feel the need to protect myself. Now that I don't have this kind of a man's protection, like I need to be safe enough to do the things that I was doing. But it's really interesting. Like I was single before I got married. So nothing really changed, but it's just kind of like a, shift. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to do something. I want to do something, So I started taking martial arts. And so now I am nominal black belt in one of the martial arts called Hapkido, and then I'm studying judo now. But like this experience really taught me what women are conditioned to not do. And to think about, okay, so what happens if I am being attacked? What can I do as a woman? So just really start thinking about that. And then really take control of that aspect of me, that to realize that I was really kind of mentally relying on someone to protect me as a woman. And then so that was really such a disempowering belief to have. And to kind of overcome that or transcend that, that really gave me a very unique insight. On top of that, I got this training in female domination. And they firsthand got to experience what it means to be a dominant leader in a relationship. And there I got to learn, regardless of gender, and especially as a woman, what are the gifts and pitfalls that comes with being a dominant party in a relationship. And what I wasn't doing, in a relationship, because I was a woman, even though I always knew I was a very strong woman, but it was on another level to actually assume and in practice being the dominant leader. And then done just kind of living a life without really thinking about it. And then so that really taught me about this gifts and pitfalls of being the dominant leader, which gave me the insight that the pressure that the men might feel because they are under this pressure constantly, right? So again, it gave me this insight of what it is like to have all this conditioning, like, woman's supposed to be this, men's supposed to be that. And I just learned all of these things that are not supposed to be that are not meant for, that my gender. And then realizing that, oh, this is how it feels like. So that kind of gives me what I am teaching, what I'm coaching people about.
I've noticed in my relationships as well, because I usually want to be the dominant partner too, if we're not coming from a complete place of neutrality. I've noticed so much of what you were saying, that the conditioning that's there that typically men experience if they're expected to take on that role, as opposed to naturally gravitating towards it. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it makes so much sense, Mariko, how you got where you are with that background in business leadership and sales. The sales world is a very male-dominated place, so you had that experience and then the martial arts experience and becoming a dom and getting training to become a dom. You have this really unique insight as a woman for how men feel.
And what a beautiful journey to be able to weave all of those intricate experiences and skills together. Like it makes sense. And that's just so neat.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It was really a fascinating thing to really experience it and then just kind of be in the shoes of, these different people. And especially like you're saying, like if every man or every woman naturally gravitates towards a certain archetype, great. But the reality isn't, right? There is this certain image of especially for a man, I was just kind of thinking about men have to be man enough. Men has to man up. We don't say that about women, right? I mean, we have to be woman enough, or we have to woman up. We don't say that. And then there is so much words, meaning behind those saying that only comes with being a man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's really
the idea of growing a pair comes to mind, right? Like people always say when you have to be bold, like, well, grow a pair, right? Well,
grow a pair?
Grow a pair, like grow a pair of balls.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah, that kind of
like
stuff.
getting your nerve up or standing up for yourself is just associated with masculinity, with like the most masculine traits.
I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Men don't cry, boys don't cry. Yeah, right. All of these things. Yeah.
So today we'd like to talk about your work to help people communicate better in order to create authentic connection and really a deeper intimacy in their lives. So, what are some examples of conditioning that a lot of men receive that causes good men to unintentionally miss out or unknowingly turn off women?
Yeah, I love this question. I believe that the most common conditioning that men receive is that it's about men has to be stronger, men has to be provider, the men has to figure things out, know what to do. This pressure of like having to know something that they actually don't know, or they have to work hard to figure out. Yeah, so that I would say that's the biggest one. And as we talked about, it's these are not the things that everyone is equipped or like a naturally gravitates towards. It's like the skill that we need to build in all of us. But men has this conditioning that, well, you're supposed to know this if you're a man. So
I had actually heard of this condition, quote unquote, called male answer syndrome many years ago. I heard about this in school, where if a man doesn't know something, he's likely to just make up the answer on the spot rather than admitting that he doesn't know it, which was so funny for me to hear at the time, because I was like, oh my God, my grandma does that. She was a prolific, just make it up on the fly kind of person. But it's interesting because women don't have that pressure on us. It's almost expected for us to not know things. But if a man doesn't know, suddenly it's a big, huge deal. So I can see how men are in positions where they feel like, okay, well, maybe I need to make something up here, or I need to make sure that the woman that I'm talking to knows that I'm knowledgeable. That I can
Oh my
validate
God.
that role I'm supposed to be fulfilling, that she's going to expect of me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we see it in terms of sexual performance too, right? We were just talking about that before we even started recording this episode. We were talking about how men feel like they need to know what they're doing in bed, right? And, or that they should already know what they're doing in bed, and that, they shouldn't have anything to learn. And honestly, when you're thinking that way, I mean, don't you think, Caity, that's going to lead to some serious disconnection?
Oh God, on both sides too. Like, how is he supposed to just show up and know exactly how her body works?
Yeah.
I heard on Instagram, I think last week, this phenomenal reel where this woman says, it's like walking into Starbucks and just expecting the barista to know exactly your order.
Yes.
That was brilliant. I'm gonna have to figure out who that was so I can link that. It was just,
I saw it too. Yeah.
That is so funny. And then thank you for bringing that up. Actually, one of the conditioning that I heard from men is that, yeah, they feel like they're expected to be good in bed already, and then no one really taught them. So, for your earlier point, I feel like a lot of men feel like they have to hide the fact that they actually don't know anything. And then so they just pretend that, oh, I'm good. I know everything.
and then that keeps them so in their head in bed. If it's like, okay, am I pushing the right buttons? Am I performing the right way? And then like you can't have that heart connection with your partner because you're too self-conscious. You're too focused on what your behavior
just the level of anxiety that
Yeah.
is there around that. I mean, that anxiety can't exist in the same space as good sex.
Well, I mean, unless it's in a kinky sense, but
Well, yeah, okay. There are
really Asian
exceptions.
kink kind of sense.
There are exceptions, outside of some certain kink dynamics. Generally don't want to have anxiety in the same space as sexy time.
No, it's going to shut off the system.
Yeah. And, I just think about what an awful conditioning to have. Like if like, you're born as a child, and then of course this is conditioning. So this is something that someone taught you, right? Or that's something that you learn kind of as you figure out, your life growing up. And then you start to realize, oh my God, I'm supposed to know everything. And I don't, like, and then if I'm not doing this successfully, then people don't think I'm a man enough. That's horrible, so yeah, I have a huge compassion for men, as I understand that how deep this is. which I didn't know when I was younger. I wasn't really thinking about it. I was kind of really more focused on receiving end of that conditioning. And of course, irritated, like being, treated in a certain way by men, or, hearing about, how they objectify women, or just kind of impose a role a woman should play. And, but yeah, now I understand where some of these behaviors are coming from. Yeah.
One hot topic that we would love to hear your thoughts on, Mariko, is mansplaining. Can you talk a bit about what mansplaining is, what drives men to do it, and specifically whether you think that it's always unintentional or if it's ever a deliberate power move? Because I've heard both sides of that argument.
Yeah. Oh, I love this question. So what mansplain? Well, first of all, yes. So what mansplain is men explaining something typically to a woman. Actually, mansplain can happen between men and men, but typically the other person is a woman, and he's explaining something to her as if she doesn't know something. But clearly she knows that thing, but he is starting to explain this thing that she doesn't need to be explained. So that's mansplaining. And why men do it. So as we were talking about this earlier in this recording, that how men are pressured to, they are taught that they should know everything. They shouldn't say that they don't know certain things. And then also their value, the men feel that, they're taught to feel that their values goes up, that their points goes up if they're able to figure out something, know something, show that they know better about something than other people. So they're in a constant, like a performative mode, like, hey, I'm good. Hey, I'm smart. Hey, I'm successful. So they're constantly in this mindset. This is running in their mind. So I believe it's not like I get to ask a lot of men and say, do a survey, why did you mansplain? But I believe it's because of that. Like they feel like they have the need to show that they know something. And especially if it's the other person is a man, the woman, that they feel like, this is man's role. I know something. I'm a provider. I'm successful. I'm a leader. So I'm going to show that I know something. So this is, I believe it's largely unconscious. But when men does it consciously, they're consciously doing it for something else, meaning that they're defending themselves. So for example, I have an experience of like, I had someone who was doing some technical stuff for me in the past. And I had a major problem in the work that was being done. It was pretty obvious that I was not happy about the end results. And then so I explained to this person who was also a friend of mine, and then say, hey, so-and-so, this is not a quality that is okay with me. Please fix this. And when I said that, he just started explaining how that his team is amazing. His team who did this product for me was an amazing team, that the team is so capable. And then, they have done all this amazing projects in the past. And I'm like, hey, so-and-so, I'm not asking you. I'm asking you to fix it because this is not good for me. This product is broken. And I did not understand why he was doing it, but he felt like he was being attacked. I was only telling him that I need this project fixed. So he was doing it to try to, I don't know, calm me down or whatever.
Mm.
But it was definitely, he was trying to defend him and then telling me that, what it takes to create this product or the project. And I know everything. I know all of that because I used to do that type of work. And, but yeah. So I guess that would be like intentional, but they are trying to do something else, which is to defend themselves because they feel horrified. I believe they feel horrified of being criticized or that they didn't do something right, because that's the heart of the men's conditioning.
That makes sense why that would be so triggering to them.
I know.
Not realize that they're
Yeah, but imagine if we're doing business and I'm outsourcing some work, and then if it's not meeting my standards, I have to stand my ground and hey, this is not meeting my standard, fix it. They shouldn't be taking that personally, but yeah.
Oh, and it's the same thing in bed too. Like if you tell them, so many women I know have that stress where they're like, I can't give him feedback about what he's doing that's not working for me because he's going to either shut down completely or like he's going to start defending himself. He's going to get aggressive. It's not safe to give that feedback that's just about my needs, not about his personhood. It's just the behavior.
I think I've told this story, Caity, in a previous episode, but one time when I gave a man direction in bed, he told me, he asked why I needed to be so bossy.
Fired out. The word bossy. The fact that he chose the word bossy.
The worst. Yeah. The worst. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And then I totally understand that. And then it's like, here's another thing I really want to be careful. And then so this is why I not only work with men, but also, they're doing the similar, like the opposite work with women that, like, Caity, you said earlier that just like, a minute ago, something about, like when women piss off men, it can be scary. It can be actually physically unsafe, right? So that's why I do martial arts too, right? So that's why I feel like when woman needs to really, stand on her ground and then just say, hey, this product is broken. I need it fixed. Or, hey, I'm not feeling good in bed. Here's how I would like you to do. We need to be able to have this, normalize this conversation, and that there is a work to be done in both sides, right? In the men on men's side and also the woman's side.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's really, really tricky to just work with just one of them. It's really, both sides, but working on different areas.
Yeah, unraveling the different conditioning from both sides. And that's vital to be able to have that communication within any relationship, whether it's, your personal romantic relationship or a professional relationship. That's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how can a man notice if, let's say, a woman is responding in a way to him that signals like, uh-oh, I must be mansplaining? What cues should he look out for that he's messed up?
So I love this question because I believe the moment that when man is already starting to mansplain, he's already in this like brain of, oh my God, I need to do something, I need to defend myself. Oh my God, right? So I don't think that he is in the mind to say, oh, I'm going to pay attention to this. I really don't think that will work. And then so the best thing I can say, and then I can talk about both, but like what do you think men, and this is an assumption that a lot of the men actually don't want to be doing this. And then, terrified of being pointed out that, oh, you mansplained yesterday, like this is like, oh, you mansplained to me right now, like my assumption is that the majority of the audience actually don't want to be doing it in the first place. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would think that you don't want to come across that way. I mean, if I was a man, I wouldn't want to come across that way. So I
Me
mean,
neither.
Well,
I
it
mean,
has that
unless
misogyny.
you're a misogynist, I would think you don't want to come across that way.
Most of the men I have talked to are very concerned about not coming across as misogynistic. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that, like, men don't want to be mansplaining. I do believe that.
Yeah, yeah, me too. And then so then, you know, I couldn't talk about maybe what can a man do if actually women are pointing out that he is doing it. How can he react? Would that be helpful?
Oh, very much so. Please share.
Okay, okay. So then my suggestion will be that, because I understand this is like that the fact that, you know, the man is mansplaining is I would say this defensive mechanism, like a built-in. And then so this conditioning doesn't go away easily, right? So first I would say celebrate that, even though it may be hard to do it. But the if woman is pointing out that, hey, you're mansplaining right now, just feel how that feels like inside. And like, wow, I feel like I'm being like attacked. Like, I feel like I have to defend myself. Like, oh my God, I did something like that. Oh my God. You know, like all of these reactions that you may feel if a woman or a man pointing out to you, just kind of feel that and then notice everything. And so that's one suggestion, first suggestion. And if you notice, like, and then you couldn't help like defending yourself and then you said something, that's another thing to notice. Like, you know, yeah, I mean, I noticed it and then I just couldn't help saying something to defend myself. Why I said what I said, you know? And then that's another thing to notice and then really own it inside, you know, that's the first thing. And the second thing I would recommend is that just really genuinely be thankful that the person actually came to you and then said that to you. Because as we talked about a few minutes ago, for a woman to say something like this, knowing that he might get triggered, you know, he might be violent if I, you know, made him upset by saying something like this. I mean, she's taking risk actually. And then so she, you know, coming up to you and then saying something like this is actually because she cares about you. So I would just really, you know, tell yourself that if someone came to you and then make this comment about you, mean that she cares about you, or that the person cares about you enough that they came to you and then informed. So just be thankful and then say, thank you. You know, I really appreciate, thank you for pointing that out. And those are the two things that I recommend.
I really appreciate that you highlighted the courage that it takes for a woman to tell a man this information.
Yes, yes. And I've had some experiences of doing this to a man. And when I do this, one, I think about, do I care about this person enough? Sometimes like I actually meet men for dates and then like after the first day, I just know, nah, too much mansplaining. And then so, but then, so I'm just really telling you, it's like, it's the truth that, do I care about this person enough? Like that the person was good so that I want him to have this information because I know it's going to help him, you know?
Yeah.
And then my experience, and I wouldn't say that I have hundreds of experiences of doing this, but half the time when I actually ask for consent and say, hey, there is something I would like to share with you when I noticed talking to you yesterday or whatever on the phone or whatever it is, like, and I think it will be very helpful for you to connect with other people. And then, by the time that we are having this conversation, they know I'm a pro, right? So, so basically they're getting a free advice from a professional, right? So, but even that, actually, I would say 30% of the men declined when I asked for consent. So basically they did not want to hear it.
That's interesting too.
Yeah.
They would rather not know.
Yeah. So they're that afraid is all I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a really important piece when you're giving someone feedback, to ask for their consent. Receiving feedback puts anyone, man or woman, in a really fragile space. And I think, always asking for consent before you provide feedback is just a fantastic idea, Mariko. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. And I think I also want to jump on and say, like, yes, that kind of feedback means you care, right? If a woman is telling a man what they want in bed, that means she wants him back in bed.
Exactly.
She wants him to do it right and even get better and like come back. So nobody should take that as criticism. That should be like, oh, she wants to keep me around and she wants me to know what she likes, right?
She wants to invest in you as a sexual partner. That's a huge sign of success, because you're not going to bother giving feedback that might be used against you. You're not investing in that relationship in general.
Yeah, you're not giving feedback to that one night stand.
Exactly.
Delete the number.
Yeah. So Mariko, I'm curious, what are other things that like aren't mansplaining, but other things that men do in relationships when like they're trying to be a good man, but those actions kind of unintentionally create the opposite effect for women?
Yeah, so I love this question. And then this is actually a version, well, actually, that the mansplaining is one of this thing I'm going to share with you, is that this performative conditioning of, how do I call this? Okay, so I will call it, in a simple terms. There is this saying in this book, in the Dale Carnegie's book, How to Make Friends and Influence People. I don't know if you've read this book.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so this book talks about, don't be interesting, but be interested in the other person. This is the key. And a lot of the men, especially, because he wants to impress, or like he wants to show that he is an amazing person, smart, funny, the problem solver, for the woman, right? They just keep talking, and don't listen fully. So the version of this will be, so he is listening to respond, which is not a listening, right? Because he's already thinking about, how do I respond? What kind of solution do I advise? Because what kind of advice do I give? This listening just to respond, that is not listening, right? So, and also, like, I know there are a lot of men who wants to make women laugh, right? I understand that, but like, when women are talking about something serious and vulnerable, don't try to tell a joke, okay? Because I know that, you're trying to be funny, and then you're trying to, just basically project the image that you're a funny guy, and then that's fine. But, like, so these are the like underlying conditioning of like all the things that they do. Again, I know men are, like a lot of the men are good people, and then just want to attract, the woman, and, that they have a good partner and have a good relationship and all of that. And then so, but in doing so and in thinking that, it's just thinking too much about, oh, she would like that, or she would like to be, to be laughing, and then she would like to hear my stories, and she would like me to solve problems, and she would like my advice. and then think hard and then, do these things, which is actually creating the opposite effect. Like she would feel that, oh my God, he's not listening. Because, who wants to hear unsolicited advice when you are just kind of talking about your experience, right? Like having a bad day or whatever, that's like the last thing you want to hear, because usually when that happens, like let's say that you're having a problem at work, like, oh my God, I had a difficult day. Like my boss was very mean to me or whatever, something like that, right? And then, all she wanted was just to be heard and say, oh my God, let me give you a hug. You had a hard day. That was it.
Yep.
The man could be, trying to be helpful. He might say something like, oh my God, what an asshole. What did he do? What did you say? Like, oh my God, tell me more about that. And like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not what she wants to hear. So
I feel like that's just, it's such a universal female experience that you're explaining something that happened to a man and he's instantly jumping in trying to solve it. I mean, how many women has anyone not experienced that? Like, I just want to feel heard. Just let me bitch about something for a minute.
Exactly. And then that's what it is, it's like, and then, we happen to got that, training as well, right? In the coach training, like what it means to actually listen and then how valuable that is, just to be listened and not to give advice, just to listen, right? And then so what is so interesting about that was that so when I was in sales and getting a lot of sales training and, like on the field, sales experience as well as training, is that I had this thing in my mind that, if I'm selling this XYZ, I have to know everything about this XYZ. And then I have to have all the answers. If my prospects or customer ask me about any questions about, whatever that the product or service I'm representing, I have to know what to say, like immediately. And so I was afraid of saying something like, if the customer asked me questions about something that I don't know, I was very afraid. So I talked to my manager, I'm like, well, I was in the high-tech industry and I'm not an engineer. So like, I didn't know anything about what I was representing, basically. And so I felt very insecure about that. And then my manager constantly told me, different managers, not just one person, said to me, Mariko, it's not about what you know about what you're representing. It's about what you're understanding about what the customer wants. So you don't need to know about anything. You just need to be present and then listen to customer complaint. What are the problems that can you solve? Your products, like the services, can you solve their problem? So you need to know what they're going through, what kind of problem that they are needing, to be solved. There's nothing for you to know. And that was so true. And then so it's the same for the relationship. There is nothing for you to show how much how what an amazing guy, and then solve any kind of problems and have 100 different jokes like to tell, and have amazing experiences or whatever. Doesn't matter. It's about, are you really being present?
Yeah.
And it can be, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say that's a big thing in my Tantra workshops is the communication exercise, just teaching people to be present for their partner and not trying to fix or change or judge or even solve a problem, right? Just being present and really, truly listening.
And it can be so hard to not give advice. Like that was something that I noticed within our coaching training. Reflecting back, I'm like, oh, I have been giving unsolicited advice constantly to everyone. And now going, okay, I'm going to work on getting out of that habit, because now I can see how annoying it is, especially as an entrepreneur, receiving feedback from everybody who's never done this. And I'm like, okay, lesson learned.
Yes, absolutely. And then so, yeah, you're absolutely right that women do this too. And I was doing it myself, like until someone pointed out to me, right, that this truth about how annoying it is to be in the receiving end of what everybody else is doing. So when I received this training and then read all the sales books and, and then other things, leadership books, I was learning about it, but it's really, I would say that when I read about it and then I learn about it, oh my God, I was doing this, and then fix it, right? But when I took the coach training, that definitely took it to another level. Like I was still doing it. So I would say that, so this is like, the reason why both women and men need this training. The training meaning like, the train to be training to be more listening, the more taking in versus putting it out, right? I mean, we all benefit from this, but I find that probably because of the conditioning that men has, right, that they are supposed to know everything, they're supposed to impress other people, they're supposed to be, man enough to know and then be able to do all these things. I just feel like they need more encouragement, and then they need more of this dissolving this facade that they have built up. Than, like, so that the dissolving this particular facade for women is much easier than for men because of the conditioning, even though we are doing the same thing.
Yeah. So we've talked about mansplaining. We've talked about how many men and sometimes women listen to respond instead of really fully listening in a space holding way. We talked about like kind of joking inappropriately, like making jokes when maybe it's not the right time to make a joke. Are there any other kind of common sneaky ways people make communication mistakes without thinking about it?
Yeah. So I would say that the underlying thing is, again, the same thing. Like there is an agenda when these things happen, right? That they're thinking about themselves and then thinking that, oh, I need to embellish myself. I need to show, I need to be this kind of a man, right? I need to be able to do. So whenever you're doing something out of that agenda, yeah. So everything can be explained, I believe, including mansplaining and then all this like inappropriate jokes when it was really not appropriate. So like I had some men say something like, oh, I was just asking questions, and like asking questions to, when I was listening to you, I was just only asking questions. And that was like active listening. This is what they say, okay? No.
Yeah. Just asking questions, isn't it? You're right.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? So I would say that,
Absolutely.
like whenever, men want to make this excuse of like, oh, I was doing it because I was listening to you. Again, you were trying to make yourself look like you're listening by asking question, isn't it? So really, I would say everything really comes back to this root, or that ask yourself this question. If you're going to say something, if you're going to ask a question or trying to tell a joke, where does that come from? I would invite men to ask that question. What is my intention? Is there any part that I'm trying to impress her? Any part that I'm trying to tell her, that show her that I'm actually listening? Are you asking the question because you're trying to tell her that you're listening? That's not a reason to ask a question. But I'm just telling you, this happens left and right in my life.
Absolutely. It reminds me of, the male birds like strutting around with their colors and their tails and their mating dances, right? It's like, Oh, they've got an agenda.
He knows he's
Exactly.
supposed to ask questions, but he's not paying attention to when and
Mhm.
where and what's appropriate.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So always ask that question, like even like the mansplaining the situation, right? I mean, if you are about to say something, if you're about to defend yourself, if you're about to explain something, ask yourself, like, why am I doing it? What am I doing this? Yeah.
And it's hard to catch yourself in the moment too, before you go into the explaining advice, whatever mode. I feel like a
Mhm.
lot of it's going to happen afterwards in the reflection, going, oh no, I did it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like this practice of like, at least for a moment, you really ask yourself. And then even if you choose to say it, I feel like the consciousness knows.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 Wow. Mariko, can you like tell us a little bit more about your programs to, help our listeners learn how they can grow more in this way in their relationships and with their communication skills?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking. So I am creating this man's leadership course. And it's still not complete yet. But I created this like not a sign up sheet. How do I call this?
Like a wait
Like a
list?
wait list.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I will be including that like a wait list. And also in the show, whatever
Show
the
notes. Yeah, we'll put it in the
yeah.
show notes. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that will be awesome. And then it should be coming out pretty soon. I would say in a month or two. The sign up sheet is going to be is already ready.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the whatever
Talking
course
about
and
the
program
class
you're going to
itself.
offer will be coming soon. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously I've been mostly coaching one-on-one.
Hmm.
And then so yeah, please reach out to
You're
me.
open to
I'm
one-on-one
also,
clients. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And also I'm creating a woman's course. And then that includes a lot of this like a really, really deep conditioning, addressing that. And that includes a self-defense part.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, so I'm really,
Nice.
really excited about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time here today, Mariko, and sharing your guidance with us on how to improve both our conscious and our unconscious communication.
You're very welcome. And then it's been so much fun to just the kind of three of us talking about this topic. And then thank you so much for having me here today.
Of course. And
Yeah.
that's all for, oh,
I was going to say that it was great having you, Mariko.
Oh, thank you.
And, I did want to kind of wrap up a little bit, Katie, just saying that, so much of the conditioning we receive is gender-based. And, we particularly maybe we're talking more today about men being trained to impress women and mansplaining being a desire to impress. But the reality is this is an issue for men and an issue for women. And these skills for intimate relationships and healthy communication can be learned, right? We can learn to drop the agenda and listen with our whole bodies. And I'd encourage you all to check Mariko's work out.
Thank you.
and that's all for this episode of Quickies with Angela and Caity. Thank you for listening, and you can follow us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
And if you'd like more great information on sex, love, and relationships, be sure to follow us on social media. I am at www.authenticheartcoach.com or on Instagram at AuthenticHeartCoaching.
And you can find me on CaityCoaches.com as well as on Instagram at CaityCoaches.
And I have something new to announce today. I have a brand new tool that you can download for free, and the link will be in the show notes. It's called the 3-Minute Intimacy Triage. If you are not having as much sex as you would like with your partner, I encourage you to check it out. You will find solid ideas about how to remedy the situation. And you all have been hearing me talk about my Get Closer Tantra couples retreat in July in Costa Rica. I might have room for one more couple, so reach out ASAP if you want to do this. You can email me or DM me on social media if you want to get in on this final opportunity for you and your partner to level up with me this summer in Costa Rica. If you are not making the retreat, I hope to see you at my Get Closer workshop on August 4th or my Tantric Massage for Him workshop on September 8th. Both of those are in Annapolis. And if you're interested in private work with me, Angela Dawn, with your partner, let's have a conversation about how I can help the two of you light a fire and transform your intimacy.
We also have spectacular virtual classes all about vulva pleasure, orgasm, sexual aliveness, and deep, passionate connection with your partner. So if that's interesting to you, check out our classes for women and men at pwclass.com. And with that said, we'll see you next time on Quickies with Angela and Caity.